All right, I guess we'll get started. Good morning, and thank you so much for attending this webinar, Fraud Prevention, Keeping Your Financial Future Safe. Our presenter today is Nathan Spiecker. Nathan is the Financial Education and Outreach Coordinator for the Department of Financial Institutions, where he works to promote financial well-being and capacity around the state of Washington. We'll turn the time over now to Nathan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everybody, for taking some time out of your morning to join us and talk about fraud prevention. As Fred mentioned, my name is Nathan Spiecker. I am the Bilingual Outreach Coordinator here for financial education at the Department of Financial Institutions. Really quick overview about what we do. We license and regulate financial service providers, so everything from your local bank and credit union to your financial advisor, investment advisor, payday lender, really anyone who works with money needs to be registered here in the state of Washington. Last year, we developed this website, dfi.wa.gov/10B. I'll put that in the chat here, 10B. And this is our fraud prevention hub. It's a resource hub here. So really the main point of this website is to have a one and done resource where we can come and learn how to identify fraud, how to prevent it, and how to report it in the case that we are victimized by fraud. I'm pleased to say that we do have this available in English, Spanish, Chinese, and Korean at the moment. Those languages were chosen as they were the languages in which most fraud reports were in terms of prevalency here in Washington state. So the website is really broken into these three sections: identify, prevent, and report. My goal with today's presentation is basically just to pitch the website, to raise awareness about its existence, encourage you all to take time to check this out, share it with your contacts, with friends, family, really whoever can benefit from this. So starting off with identify, we've got a page full of different sorts of scams. We've got different tiles for different scams with brief descriptions of the different sort of scam. For example, on the top right corner, we've got charity scams. Scams where fraudsters pose as legitimate charities to solicit donations, often in the wake of disasters or during holidays. And if you read that and say, you know what, that sounds interesting. It sounds like something a contact that I got recently. Someone was soliciting a charitable donation. So if you want to learn more about that, you click on the tile. It will open up, redirect to a new web page. In this case, this is going to be with the Washington Secretary of State and their Give Smart program. So this has information about avoiding charity scams and charity frauds. You can report suspected charity scams. They have informational pamphlets, and you can even request a presentation from them in this case. And likewise for other sorts of scams. We have really put in a lot of work to find reputable sources, sources that are unbiased, that provide good information without necessarily selling a product. So for example, with credit repair scams, unfortunately, a lot of people are victimized by these sorts of scams, as credit is very important. So if we click back on this little block, will be redirected to our own DFI's own article here on credit repair scams, with some resources as well for the consumer. Okay, so that's the identify page, all sorts of different types of scams and frauds, quick definitions. You can click on each individual tile.
The Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs.
Sorry, I heard someone else's phone go off. Quick definitions, and then you can also read more in depth if you are interested in doing so. So that's how we help identify fraud, which is the first step in keeping our finances safe. The second step is going to be prevention, right? So here we suggest some steps, some tips. These are all fairly common sense, I would say, in my opinion, right? Of course, as we're in a certain job or in a certain field, we just normalize the things in that field, and they become sort of second nature to us. But there may be tips or tricks here that individuals have not considered. One of them is the pressure point in scams and frauds. Unfortunately, scam artists are really well versed in human psychology because their full-time job is pushing people's buttons and seeing how they react, right? It's sort of a trial and error process that never ever ends until they get someone's money, and then it's off to the next client or the next victim, rather. So really, these scammers use a lot of pressure. In some cases, it'll be pressure that there's an issue. For example, many of us got those the toll scam texts, right, from Good to Go earlier this summer, where apparently we had outstanding balances only to find out that they were fraudulent, right? So in that situation, they use the name of a trusted entity, an entity that we recognize that we have some level of trust in, right? And then they use the whole pressure of, look, you have an outstanding toll that you need to pay, and if you don't do this, then you're going to get in trouble, right? So there's that pressure. There's also the pressure in the positive sense of, you've won the lottery. All you have to do is pay the taxes or the transfer fee for you to get these $500,000 or whatever amount it is you won, right? Or take advantage of this one-time only offer on this dog bed or on this Le Creuset pot being sold on Facebook, right? Or whatever it might be, right? Once in a lifetime opportunity, take advantage of it now. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get this $300 pot for 25 bucks, right? So once again, it's that pressure causing us to make a decision without really taking the time to think about it, right? Unfortunately, our IQ does decrease significantly when we are under stress. This pressure oftentimes leads to a lot of stress, especially when the pressure is sort of painted in a negative light, like outstanding warrants, for example, like unpaid tolls, like unpaid taxes that the IRS is apparently out after, different sorts of scams like those. Our IQ does dip when we are under stress. So that is why it's so important to just take time, talk to somebody else about it, right? Do some research before making a decision. We also plug DFI's Verify a License button or resource to ensure that companies are authorized to conduct business in Washington state. Now, once again, I just want to clarify that those are financial service provider companies. So you can access our website as well, dfi.wa.gov, to find more information about our licensees. And then last but not least is reporting. Now, this may be the most important part of this fraud prevention website. Consumer reports really are what drive law enforcement, what drive agencies that work in the interest of consumer protection, like ours, like the Attorney General's, like the Secretary of State, like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, for example, or the Federal Trade Commission. These agencies really are driven by public complaints, right? So if you are a victim of a scam or if you are targeted by a certain type of scam or fraud, please do report that because it helps agencies like ours, first of all, keep track of what sorts of scams and frauds are most prevalent, and if there are higher cases of prevalency in some areas over another, that helps us educate the public in terms of what to look out for. And then also in reporting it, we can start looking into businesses that are operating under fraudulent premises. So of course, depending on the type of scam we're going to report, the corresponding agency will be different. So for banking scams, that would be us, the Department of Financial Institutions. We handle complaints for banks and credit unions here in Washington. Now, of course, if you have a complaint against a national bank, one of the the massive banks, one of the 4 or 5 massive banks that operate on a national level, that would be our federal counterparts that regulate them. For identity theft, it would be identitytheft.gov. That is a website run by the Federal Trade Commission dedicated specifically to prevention and recovery from identity theft. For investment in cryptocurrency, it would also be DFI. Loan scams would also be the Department of Financial Institutions. Mail fraud would be the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. Technology scams would be the Internet Crime Compliance Center. And all other complaints, you can file those with the Attorney General, as well as with the Federal Trade Commission and your local police department. So some additional tips we have here on our website is gather documentation. Really, any sort of communications you may have with fraudsters, any bank statements or financial statements that show unauthorized transactions, credit reports with suspicious activities, any other documentation that can help make your case stronger. Hold on to that and provide that to any agency that asks for that as you're trying to report the fraud or scam. And then also check your credit report. You might consider placing a fraud alert or a credit freeze on your credit reports to prevent further unauthorized activity if there has been unauthorized activity. And you can learn more at annualcreditreport.com. So once again, that is our DFI 10B fraud prevention website. I'll just drop this in the chat once again. And I may not have mentioned this earlier, but we called it 10B for 10 billion, as there were $10 billion in reported losses to fraud in 2023. 2024, that number unfortunately went up. So be on the lookout. I'm happy to take any questions. I'll also put my contact information here in the chat. If you have any questions, I'm very happy to provide follow-up, or if you would like me to come and talk to your organization about fraud prevention or any topics related to financial education and personal finances, I'm happy to do so. So there's that in the chat. Any questions? If a credit union is registered in another state, there is still a federal agency that sort of oversees credit unions. That is the NCUA, National Credit Union Administration. Yes. Let me drop that here in the chat. So any sort of questions you would have about a non-local credit union would be with NCUA. Yeah, good question. They are sort of the credit union equivalent of the FDIC, which also provides insurance on our bank accounts, right? They provide insurance of $250,000 per customer per account, I believe, both NCUA and FDIC. Wonderful.
That's a great question. Thank you very much. But thank you, Nathan, for the great information, and as always. But thank you to everyone who attended. I posted the link up there. If you have any feedback for us, that would be great. The next webinar is going to be at 10:40, called "What Veterans Need to Know About Medicare."